What's up, it's EJ Spark. Today I'm going to be giving my thoughts on Mike Posner's new album, Operation Wake Up. I do want to say Mike Posner did have some warnings and wishes he had for listening to this album. So first and foremost, I do want to say if you have not heard this album, I ask that you pause this video or exit out of the video and listen to the album in full, because he does say in the introduction he wishes that the listener for the first time listens to the album all the way through. I don't want to give any spoilers away, and I also very much so want to respect Mike Posner's wishes, so go listen to the album if you have not yet. And the other warning here is, in addition, anyone struggling with a mental illness, depression, schizophrenia should not listen to this album. Turn it off. So if you are dealing with a mental illness, I also ask you to respect Mike's wishes. He does say on his Instagram to listen with caution, and I just want everyone to respect Mike Posner's wishes while listening to this album. He also says it's important to note that the characters in the story in this album are completely fictional, even the ones based off real people. So coming into this album, I listened to it a couple times last night. I was thinking it's going to be very heavy, very good storytelling. Obviously, I kind of thought of it maybe like a book, because he says it's very fictional, and he wants you to know that it's not real. And I'm not necessarily going to review this, but I am going to give my thoughts. I don't think this album is something that can be judged. I'm just going to interpret it in my opinion for you, and you all can interpret it yourself after listening to it. Or since you're watching this, you should have already listened to it. So the first track is the introduction, where he explains everything that I just explained. Proceed with caution if you have a mental illness. Know that this is all fictional, and to listen through it all in one take on the first go. So I respected all that, and I was in a right state of mind, and I listened to it all the way through multiple times. The second track is Shave It All Off. And this track is about Mike Posner's frustrations with Hollywood, which seems to be a common theme in many of his previous songs and poetry. In this song, he has a conversation with his barber. You could tell he's frustrated with life. He had a really bad breakup recently. He doesn't like the plastic fakeness of the world or Hollywood specifically. And I think that's pretty brave to call out Hollywood, an industry that he is in. And it's something that us normal people, think about all the time. We kind of know that Hollywood is this crazy place that might be full of plasticity. But basically, it's a lot of banter between him and his barber asking him if he's okay, all that kind of stuff. So then the next track goes into Once in a While. Mike meets Jessie J. So obviously in this track, Mike meets Jessie J. This beat actually slaps when it comes to the production. You got some brass instruments in there, the 808 kick. I'm really feeling this beat a lot. It's kind of a jam. So Mike does meet Jessie at the studio. He's a bit starstruck, but once again, he's kind of fed up with the plasticity of Hollywood. He says all they have is juice and water at the studio, and he's like typical LA Hollywood studio. Jessie J comes in, she has a bodyguard, smells good, like typical Hollywood stuff, yet Mike Posner's still starstruck, so it's kind of some irony in there. And the first thing Jessie J says is like, why is your head completely shaven? Why are you completely bald? I feel like, when someone's down, they just need to switch it up, so they shave their head. That's just my thoughts personally. But then at the end, he acoustically plays a song that he's been writing, so he plays it for Jessie J to see if she likes it, and then they end up producing that song, which goes into track 4, Weaponry, featuring Jessie J, and this is just that song that they made. It's a fully produced song, and objectively, it may be the best song on the album. Structurally, obviously, it's like the most quote-unquote real song, but then again, nothing is real, right? Amazing chord progression with the piano. Jessie J gives beautiful vocals. Her and Mike Posner match up beautifully on the track, and the lyrical content is great. I mean, Jessie even says in the song, "I like you more when you're taken." So I'm assuming that it's two ex-lovers trying not to hurt each other, which is a very unique topic, I think. But this song definitely hits you in the heart. And yeah, that's how I interpreted. So then Mike leaves the studio. Next song is Mike meets Blackbear at Joe's Falafel, obviously a restaurant they like to go to. And he ends up saying that Weaponry song is corny, which is interesting. This beat, also nasty. Love the guitar riff. Posner writes some amazing instrumentals. He just does. Mike Posner's instrumentals are far out. He writes hell of a songs. Once again, you got brass instruments in there. I'm a big fan of live instruments. You all know that, so I like that a lot. Sonically, this song is a jam. In the middle, Mike shares a poem that he's written, pretty metaphoric, which is cool, but you don't really suspect anything of it. When he sees Blackbear, Blackbear says that Mike looks like a cancer patient, which is kind of rude. Mike takes a little bit offense to that, but Blackbear's like, yo, you need to get out of this mental state. You need to party. We got to throw a rager and do drugs and like all this stuff that people in a mental health state that shouldn't be doing that stuff shouldn't be doing. So then track 6 is Let's Have a Party. It's definitely a simpler song. It's a fun song, not gonna lie. Nice guitar riffs in there. But the first verse is definitely Mike's version of Blackbear singing / talking. And he says he's gonna throw a huge crazy party, he's gonna throw a rager, mentions that he has been hooking up with Mike's ex for the past year. Not very good for a best friend. So you learn these kind of things that the character of Blackbear is doing behind the scenes. Goes into track 7. Tracy calls Noelle, Mike's ex. Tracy's barber, who obviously cares a lot about Mike's mental state, calls Mike's ex. When they're talking, you know, Noelle admits that she's been hooking up with the fictional version of Blackbear. Tracy is worried about Mike and his mental state. Noelle says that Mike just wants attention, which is a horrible thing to say about someone in a mental state like that. She even says that she hopes Mike sees her with Blackbear. That's just such a bad move. Tracy says she shouldn't be doing this, and she just has a bad feeling about the whole thing, and Tracy is just looking out for Mike. Tracy is a good friend. But then it goes into track 8. Blackbear throws a rager. Obviously, the song is about Blackbear's party, to say the least. You could tell Mike is uncomfortable. Doesn't really want to be at the party. Doesn't feel like he should be there. Doesn't feel like he should be doing that at this moment, which is good. But then Blackbear has Mike partake in a little bit of party favors, and things go a little bit spirally from there. Next song is High and Low on LSD, and I'm not going to talk a lot about it. It's a crazy instrumental that takes you on a journey, but at the end, Mike does catch his ex and the fictional version of Blackbear hooking up. Mike makes them leave, and you know, he gets a little blackout drunk and wakes up the next morning. Track 10 is Alone in a Mansion, and obviously Mike is alone in a big mansion, and he's alone with his thoughts. Not a good position to be in, especially after a horrible experience or night like that. I mean, you don't want to be alone with your thoughts in that mental state. So that's definitely a real take, you know. A lot of people, it just gets hard to be alone with your thoughts sometimes. So nonetheless, at the end of the track, he reads that poem that he wrote in the middle of the album, and then he commences Operation Wake Up, I will say. And that wraps up the album. And I did see on Instagram, Mike says that this album blurs the line between reality and performance art, but all characters and events are completely fictitious. But I can see the truth in the blurred lines. Maybe not in Mike's life, but it's definitely a painting of a picture of some realities in this world, specifically the LA Hollywood life. And I can see why Mike heeded the warning if you're dealing with a mental illness, why you shouldn't be listening, because he's a great storyteller. The music and art of this album feel extremely real, relatable, emotional. I think he's one of the best storytellers, and he really doesn't get enough props for his talents. I mean, he brought to life this fictional story that just feels so real. I mean, it made me feel all sorts of emotion, and I was in a very good mental state going into it. It's very deep, it's very introspective, and it's a fantastic story. It's great writing. It could honestly be a movie. I could see a screenplay made out of this album, which is very rare. I love the uniqueness of it. Sonically, it would be a beautiful movie. You know, even though he says it's fictitious, the characters are fictitious, obviously there's some truth to everything. Like I said, do I actually think Mike is going through all of it? I don't know. I can't speak on that because I'm not Mike Posner. I don't know Mike Posner. I don't know his life. But I can see, you know, truths to it. I could see the plasticity of Hollywood. I could see being uncomfortable at these Hollywood parties. I can see being alone with your thoughts, you know, with a mental illness, it does something to you. It can be very relatable for many people. So for the fact he brings this story to life is absolutely incredible. So those are my thoughts. Like I said, I don't want to give it a score because I don't think this album should necessarily be judged in that way. I just believe that I can say how I interpret it all. And like I said, I interpret it as an amazing story that many people can relate to and, you know, wonder about the Hollywood life. And maybe we all shouldn't want to be, you know, that fame and glory and money that everyone wants. And I think that's something he's trying to tell us. It's not all fun and games when you're up there in the Hollywood life with a lot of money. So that's how I interpret it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did you enjoy it? Just let me know your interpretations. So that's Operation Wake Up from Mike Posner. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, hit a like, subscribe to the channel. As always, you could listen to my music on all streaming platforms. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EJSpark1. And as always, you know what it is. It's peace, love, I love s'mores, EJ, out.